Good evening, everybody. Ooh, that was loud. Welcome to the September 6th meeting of the MSAD 51 Board of Directors. So I will start our agenda by the approval of July 9th, 2018 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
All in favor? All right, and then we'll move on to approving the meeting from our August 20th workshop. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, then our next item is recognition, which I don't believe we have for this evening. So we will move to our presentations. So those are the opening of schools, site improvement plans from our building administrators. Susie, are you going to go first?
I think we're going to let Chris go first.
Oh, great. Excellent.
I don't see how that's fair.
That's fine.
Well, the best go first.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you. We did not discuss this at all. So I am struggling to get on the spot here. So before I begin my remarks, I did go around before the meeting, but I do want to make sure to introduce a new assistant principal who is here tonight. That's Don Gray, and we're very pleased to have him. Thank you. Yeah, Don comes to us from our high school and has been transitioning here. He was here for our first staff day and first student day, and will be here starting tomorrow, full time. And he is very welcome. He brings an immense amount of experience as an assistant principal to us here at Greeley, and is also a Greeley grad. So welcome. Thank you. I'll just quickly, if I had to sum up our site improvement plan at Greeley High School for this year, I would use 3 words, and I use these 3 words with my staff. Those words are respect, engagement, and accountability. Although I gave my staff the opportunity to substitute accountability for responsibility. As I told them, I tend to think of accountability as a good thing, but I know sometimes it has somewhat negative connotations, and I think we could think of it as responsibility in this case too. In terms of respect, the goal is really to elevate the overall level of respect that all members of our school community feel. Difficulties, apologies. Sounds worse. This better not be coming. There it is. There it is. Thank you, Andy, again. So again, respect. Respect is about elevating the overall sense of respect that all members of our community feel, including the overall sense of belonging that they experience within our building. I think this really relates to our overall school culture. We did a number of things at the start of the year already to engage our students in generating greater relationships with one another and with staff members from the very beginning. From my work last year on the Greeley High School culture team, we really identified a clear need for students to have the opportunity to interact with their peers and with staff members in non-academic ways. And so we really tried to start the year with that, both through a series of planned activities in advisory, as well as a community day set of events. And I do just have a couple things to share with you. A couple emails that I received in response to that. One comes from a student and one comes from a parent. The student writes, "I thought today was fantastic." This is in reference to last Thursday's community day. "I thought today was fantastic. It was so nice to see everybody outside all together. There were seniors cheering on freshmen in the bungee run and vice versa. I saw juniors and freshmen playing soccer today, and I certainly saw a bunch of kids cheering on the faculty band. And I loved how disorganized it was. I don't mean disorganized in that it was poorly planned or that there was chaos, because you guys did a really good job planning in my opinion, but I loved how everybody just got to go do whatever they wanted. There weren't any planned groups or time limits. If the rest of our school-wide events go half as well as this did, we're in good shape. I'm really excited for this year, and I love being the big kid." This was from a senior, of course. And then one parent wrote to me and said, "I just wanted to say a quick thank you for planning a much-needed community day for the high school students and staff last week. My son came home and reported it was quote, it was pretty much the best day of school ever." I hope he has other reasons for school being good in the future. I think that it was such a brilliant idea to start the school year off with good fun and positive interactions between staff and students. Well done. I hope this sets the tone for the year ahead. We have a number of additional activities, particularly through our advisory program, planned to continue to build on those interactions going forward, as well as items specifically for our staff members to improve our overall staff culture. So that's respect, and I'll just very quickly touch on engagement and accountability. Engagement is really about the experience our students have in classrooms, and the goal itself is to increase the level of engagement and support that students feel within their classes. This is both about the teaching and learning that occurs in those classes and ensuring that the activities, the assessments, the units we have planned are engaging and oriented towards students' interest to the greatest extent possible. And I would connect this aim within our classrooms to our overall district goal of providing creative approaches to meeting standards. That's really what the goal of our professional development in this aim is to take standards which are often somewhat rigid and offer creative and engaging approaches to those with our students. And also somewhat connected to this is the work that we're doing with our ongoing Pathways program. Another of our goals through the strategic plan is to increase the opportunity students have for field experiences and career experiences. And I've already been meeting with our Pathways coordinator to connect the work that happens through him to engaging student experiences. And then lastly, in terms of accountability, I think this really connects to the first goal related to culture, but I think we've lost to some degree a sense that we're all in this together at the high school. As administrators, as students, as teachers, we all have responsibilities to contribute to our community. And so in terms of accountability, we're looking to improve our student attendance. We're looking to improve the clarity of our grading for parents and for our students, of course, as well. And again, that will occur through our professional development opportunities as well as ongoing work in departments throughout the year. That's what I'll share for now. Also, just a quick general note, because I think others are going to share this information too. Our enrollment did increase over the summer. We had 22 additional students enroll over the summer, plus, of course, 5 exchange students, which is what we usually cap our exchange student numbers at. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris? I think we're all really excited for the year ahead for Greeley High School.
Thank you.
And welcome, Don.
Hi, everyone. I left a handout for you at each place about co-teaching, and that is just a reference point for you in case you field any questions from members of the public, so that you can speak to what co-teaching is and what it isn't, and I'll highlight that in a minute, but I wanted to just make sure that you had that and knew what it was for. So I'm going to start with enrollment. We've had a good start to the year in Greeley Middle School 6-8. Our enrollment is starting out at about 477 students as of today. And this is down from last year by about 10 students overall, which is less than the projected decrease, which was at 17 students. We've seen this pattern for the last couple of years where we've had decreasing enrollment, but they've been lower decreases than are projected, and we know that this is resulting from an increase in the number of transfers to Greeley Middle School. So this year we have 22 new students in grades 6 through 8, even though our enrollment is technically down by 10 students. And I consider that to be basically flat enrollment. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about co-teaching, which is an element of one of our goals that aligns with the district plan. So co-teaching is the instructional and structural model at GMS for realizing the non-categorical approach to meeting the needs of our learners. And I know you've heard Julie talk about a non-categorical approach, and you've heard Sally talk about that as well. This aligns with number 2 on Jeff's top 10 list that he had in his opening presentation. What do we do when students aren't learning? We increase the scope of our TI services in reading, writing, math, and behavior, and we expand our non-categorical support so that the way that we're realizing that top 10 item, which was number 2, at Greeley Middle School is through co-teaching. It also aligns with the Greeley Middle School Site Improvement Plan, our TI systems of supports is one of our goals, and it names co-teaching as the model that will grow and develop in our school. So here's what it's looking like this year. We have co-taught ELA classes at each grade level in 6 through 8. We have co-taught math in grades 6 and 7. So that begs the question, why not in 8th grade? Well, we have 3 new 8th grade teachers because we had 3 retirements at the 8th grade level in math, and I thought it was dirty pool to make them do something brand new in addition to teaching in our school for the first time. So I think we'll probably try and grow that next year, depending on our student needs and numbers. But we have stuck with nested math in 8th grade math for this year. There was PD training offered this summer that focused on co-teaching practices. Many of the attendees were not co-teaching partners, but rather teachers who were interested in learning more about the model for the future. So we're investing not only in the individuals who are co-teaching actively, but also people who may want to try in the future. You have the handout in front of you on what co-teaching is and is not. I think it's important to note just a couple of things on here. That co-teaching is not one teacher acting like a helper, or one teacher just showing up, or one teacher teaching while the other one provides supports to students. They're both actively teaching. They're grouping and regrouping children. They're using best instructional practices for a group of students who can benefit from the reach, the high end, and also providing supports at the lower end. So just a quick snapshot of some data. This is early data because we've only been doing this for a year or so. And I would like to qualify the data that in several of our co-taught classes, a teacher was out on leave for the better part of half of the year. And then in one of the classes, when that teacher returned, the other co-teacher left on leave. So we had some turnover in the course of the year last year. But we did have 64 students enrolled in co-taught classes last year in grades 6 through 8. 65% showed growth toward their projected targets on the iReady assessments. 23 students in that group had 20-plus point gains, smashing their growth targets, and that's 33% of the total group. That was also evenly distributed across students with and without IEPs. So it's promising data, and I only expect it to go up as the teachers develop over time in their co-teaching relationships. So that's a little bit about what's happening at Greeley Middle School. Questions?
I do have one,
Okay.
if I can. Can you define on the bottom piece here the benefits of the increased differentiation? What do you mean by that?
So what that means is that the teachers, because you have 2 teachers, one who specializes in changing up the instructional strategies to meet the needs of the learners, the special educator, you have an increased opportunity to do that with kids. It's much harder to do it with one person in the room. To group and regroup kids. So if you walk into a co-taught class at Greeley Middle School, typically what you'll see is a whole class lesson at the start of class. It might be just a starter, an activator, if you will, to get the kids warmed up and into the lesson. And then the teachers will break the students out into 2 groups. These are heterogeneously grouped students. It's not all the IEP kids over here and all of the other kids over here. They're grouped heterogeneously. And the 2 teachers are using different instructional strategies to get at the same content, to get at the same lesson. And then they'll come back as a whole group and process the end of it together. So that's just one example of how they might change up the instruction to meet the needs of the learners. They plan together, and it's really deliberate how they group those kids.
That's great, and it sounds from the scores that you're talking about, the data really, it's resonating with folks.
It's promising data, and I expect that to go up.
Wow.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else? No? All right, we'll move on to Carol MacArthur.
Good evening, Carol MacArthur, principal of 4th and 5th grade. We have had a remarkably smooth start to the school year. Knock on a little wood. But I really do attribute that to some incredibly dedicated and skilled staff members. We welcomed just 6 new faces to our staff, so we maintained a lot of the same staff we had last year. and an incredibly wonderful group of students, which includes 20 new enrollees from last spring to now. So our enrollment is up by 13 students over the projections from last spring. Not quite a full class size, but pretty close. In terms of our school goals and our SIP plan, we have it's strongly influenced by our check-in survey data that the district provided last spring that students, staff, and parents all completed. We have two goals that we're focusing on. One is around staff and student culture, specifically around respect and collaboration. And then the other is around curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And so I'm going to highlight a little bit around our systems and structures of professional learning and the impact of those on student learning. So in Jeff's opening presentation, the pieces that I'm going to share really are connected to the top two, which is what should students learn? So how are we supporting the core curriculum? And then how do we know that students are learning? And then what do we do when the students aren't learning? So in terms of what should students learn, this year in our professional learning time, we're focusing on high impact teaching strategies to really help teachers perfect their craft and maximize their instructional time with students. Specifically, we're working on developing really clear learning targets that reflect the standards, engaging all learners across the continuum, and as well as incorporating more student voice and choice into lessons. How do we know when students are learning? Well, we have a pretty systematic process that we've been using for a couple of years now for responding to students when they aren't learning. We're incorporating this year a more comprehensive data analysis protocol to help us really pinpoint the areas of need, not only for individual students, groups of students, as well as across a grade level. So there are multiple ways that we can do that and multiple data points we can use. And then when our students are struggling to learn what we're putting in front of them, we have student study teams. And those teams are meeting regularly throughout the year. They're reviewing student data. We changed up our model a little bit last year, providing a really clear protocol that we follow for a specified amount of time, talking about individual student. And we've received really positive feedback from our staff about that, who feel like the meetings are not only efficient, but really effective in terms of the outcome of those plans. And then providing the targeted instruction in the areas of need, whether that be through direct instruction with a staff member or online learning tools such as iReady or Reading Plus. And so I end with a bit of a success story. It relies on some data crunching that I did over the summer. So we had a number of students who were receiving Tier 3, our most intensive RTI instruction. So these are regular ed students who have struggles in reading and math specifically. And these students, on average, exceeded their expected growth target by 40%. So not only met, but exceeded by that margin. So we're hoping that through our efforts, we hope to expand our repertoire of instructional strategies and interventions so that we continue to see improvement in student learning and also a decrease in the number of students who are needing to access those remedial services as well. Questions?
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susie Robbins for the two board members who are new. I'm the principal of the kindergarten through third grade Mabel I. Wilson School, and welcome. So Mabel Wilson's having a great beginning to the school year. We've welcomed 613 4 through 8-year-olds into our 34 classrooms. We've had 23 new students join us over the summer. And as you're probably aware, we've added a 2-classroom portable to our backyard. We have 2 rooms of second graders who are currently enjoying this space. And while it does take up some of our playground area, the children do not seem to notice. The good news is the noise from the playground cannot be heard inside the portable. And if you knock on the portable door, they won't hear you. So they're very well insulated. The portables have air conditioning, internet, phones, an intercom, and bathrooms. So I want to thank Scott and Don for their efficient and timely work in getting these classrooms ready for the beginning of the school year in very short order. So our school improvement plan continues to focus on 3 different areas. Continuing to create a safe, respectful, and responsible learning environment for all learners. Refining our curriculum instruction and assessment practices to help students meet their learning targets, and then providing that student support that you've heard a lot about tonight, and broadening our non-categorical support. But tonight I wanted to highlight a focus on a K-5 initiative that we started last year to support the implementation of Jeff's top 1 in his top 10, his number 1 in his top 10, implementation of our core curriculum. So 2 years ago, we started a K-5 leadership team that consists of the 3 building administrators, along with our K-5 literacy and math specialists. We took the time to read a book on student-centered coaching together, and then we created structures and some protocols to support our content specialists having these types of conversations with our staff. So each coaching cycle consists of one of our specialists partnering with a teacher or a team of teachers to review the outlined curriculum that's coming up, and then reviewing student data and student needs so that they can set goals for an upcoming unit or a set of lessons. So the specialist and the teacher then co-plan and co-teach over the next few weeks. They observe each other and they provide feedback to one another. They also engage in weekly reflective conversations about their lessons and future work. So last year, our K-5 specialists conducted over 25 coaching cycles with our staff. This year, we've made changes in our coaching model based on a second book that we read together last year. And there is a third book by the same author that we're going to continue to read this year as we hopefully refine this model. So we ask that all of our new staff participate in a coaching cycle with both a literacy specialist and a math specialist every year for their first 3 years here. So we hope this support and guidance helps them and helps us support the implementation of our core curriculum, which is the goal outlined in our new strategic plan.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Questions?
I would like to thank our building administrators for coming tonight, and thank you for the work and reflection that you do over the summer. It truly makes a difference, and there are a lot of happy children in my house after the start of the school year, and I heard really positive stories from, parents and other students in just about every building. So it seems like we're gonna be in for a great year. Thank you. All right, the next item, if I can get my computer up, should be Superintendent's report.
Yes, I'm going to cue Andy that I'm going to have something at the end of this report for the screen for you. We have had a really good school year beginning, as the principals have just talked about. It's just been a very smooth year so far. We're about 5 or 6 days in now, and I've been around to all the schools, and there are, as our principals have said, very happy children, and we've had happy staff, a lot of smiles. And I want to compliment our bus drivers as well, because on the first day of kindergarten, which is always a treat, on the first day of kindergarten, at the end of the day, to get all of our kindergarten students home by 4:20 in the afternoon is an amazing accomplishment. That's less than, it's about an hour to get them home, get them on the bus, and get them to their stops. The first couple of days of kindergarten are always challenging. So I think all around our entire district is, it's all hands on deck, and we've had a really wonderful start to our school year. In a few minutes, I'm going to talk about our enrollment and where our enrollment is. Our principals also referred to it, and I'll give you the district picture as well. So our new strategic plan, and I won't say much more than this because it's been mentioned several times, but we do have an executive summary. This executive summary link will also be in my blog, which will now be communicated through a weekly communication that we have coming out from the district. We're changing our communication practices this year. We've made some additional refinements, and every Thursday we will have a single communication that goes out from the district. Instead of getting multiple emails from the school district, we will make sure that all of our communication for the most part goes through this Thursday memo, much like what our schools do. The district will be doing the same thing. So if you want to find out any new information about the district, there'll be links on that page, and we actually sent out the first one today. So there is an executive summary, and I just passed it out. I'd like to thank Ashley Caswell for putting this together for us, and we've printed it out, and we're slowly distributing it to as many people as would like to have it. And again, we'll have a link on our webpage and in my future blog. The Greeley Center for the Arts continues to be worked on. We believe that we might be about 2-3 months away at this point from being substantially completed. We're still looking at January as our startup month for the GCA, but the exterior of the building is mostly done at this point. The interior of the building is a little bit more than half completed at this point. And actually the bricks in front of the Center for the Arts, if you haven't had a chance to get up there, they just started getting laid about a week ago, and you can actually see if you ordered a brick, we've started to lay those bricks up there in front of the building, and those will continue to be completed over the next couple of months. And if you're interested in buying a brick or a seat, please visit our website. We have a donation link. And if anyone is interested in doing that still, even though we've closed the deadline for the opening ceremony, we are going to continue selling bricks and seats for the new Greeley Center for the Arts. We've raised close to $45,000 at this point, and we're going to continue to campaign for those dollars to support the center. We have a lot of new faces in the district this year. We had a great new staff orientation a couple of weeks ago. And as you know, Chris Hoffman and Don Gray will be the new leadership team at the high school, as you've been introduced to. So we'll be very pleased to see that the high school and all of the new faces in our district are starting our new year off. And I just want to mention that in the next few weeks, we'll be starting a calendar study. This is really around instructional time for students and professional learning time for our staff, and looking at our current structure of early releases and seeing if there are adjustments that we want to make. We'll be putting together an ad hoc group that will be working for probably a good year on looking at options available in the calendar that will actually commence in 2020-21. At this point would be my guess as to when the board would like to go ahead with those changes. And I'd like to just kind of turn to the enrollment of our district for a minute. All right, so these are factors that influence our enrollment. So when we're looking at our enrollment, and we look at our enrollment several times a year, we don't just look at it at the beginning of the year. The annual report is done in December. I'll look at that again. We look at our enrollment really on a monthly basis just to make sure that we are seeing trends or patterns in our enrollment. There's been a lot of new patterns in the last 3 years that I'd like you to be aware of. And just just understand as we're going into it, and also this references back to a major study that we had done in September of 2016 by Planning Decisions as to what the district's enrollment will be looking like for the next decade. So we look at kindergarten class size, we look at the outgoing senior class that just left, we look at new housing starts in town, and if you haven't noticed, there are a number of new housing starts in both towns right now. Some are small, some are larger. We have a lot of turnover sales, and talking to a couple of realtors over the summer, the amount of turnover sales in both towns in the last year has been unbelievable. I don't have any numbers, but just from their anecdotal records, it has been probably a good record number of turnover house sales when someone moves out and a new family moves in. Private and charter school enrollment influences our enrollment. Homeschooling students, superintendent agreements, that's the agreement between two superintendents. If a student doesn't live in a community, can they go to school in a different community? And then transfers in and out, and all the principals talked about moves that have been in and out, and we've had a number of moves, more than we've seen in a while over the last couple of years. So this is our current enrollment right now. If you look at the red shaded area, this enrollment was taken yesterday, so if you heard a different number or slightly different number, that was probably enrollment that was taken today, so this was yesterday's enrollment. So we have 2,081 students approximately right now in our district as of yesterday. And if you look at the bottom, K through 12, we are up 38 students over this time last year. We had 2,043 students in September of 2017. If you look at 2 years ago, in 2016, September of 2016, we are up 57 students over that period. Just to give you a perspective, Planning Decisions predicted that we would have 2,070 students as of this year. So this is going back just a little bit. This is probably the last year I'm going to show this slide or reference this information. These are two studies that were done in 2009, and the reason this is the last time I'll probably reference this information is because the studies that were done in 2009 are expiring. They don't have any data beyond 2019, so I won't be able to share anything else with you. So, but I think for historical purposes, because I hear about these studies over and over again from folks in the community, it's important to show that two very important studies that were done in 2009, and at that point showed that the district's enrollment would drop substantially by this point, 2018. And you can see that those studies, which relied a lot on kindergarten enrollment, birth rates, which were standard practice back in 2009, and based on what the community's demographics were at that time, that no longer applies now. You can see that we have far more students than either of these important studies back in 2009 predicted. And they were good studies at that time. Historical enrollment for the school district, you can see since 2005, where there was 2006-07, where there was a peak of 2,314 students. There has been a significant decline over the last 10, 12 years, and now we're starting to see an increase. There's a stabilizing factor that happened for about 4 years, and now we're starting to see an increase in our enrollment. And this really is mirroring pretty much what Planning Decisions started to tell us 2 years ago, and it will continue, according to Planning Decisions, for the next 8 years. I think the big story is the Mabel Wilson School, even though I will show you in a minute that the high school enrollment is way up as well. The big story is at Mabel Wilson still, because this is where students come into school, and this is where most of our students stay for 13 years, is in our district. So if you look back, in March of 2015, there were 541 students, and as of today, in September 2018, as Susie mentioned earlier, we have 613 students. Planning Decisions is saying that by 2025, we will have 708 students K through 3 in our district if nothing else changes. So that just kind of gives you an idea about our enrollment. And it's been steadily increasing since March of 2015. It had been steadily decreasing prior to that. So looking at planning decisions, this is information, again, that planning decisions provided us. Last year, planning decisions said we would have 2,043 students. We had 2,043 students. They were right on the money. It was 1 year after their report. This year, planning decisions has said we would have 2,070 students. We now have 2,081 students. So we're a little bit over where they projected. And you can see that the planning decisions report for the next 8 years shows a modest increase, and then it's somewhat of a sharp increase towards the end of the 8-year period that we're going into. People ask me a lot about superintendent agreements. Are we taking too many superintendent agreements in? You know, are we bringing too many students in from other communities? Is that increasing our enrollment? So I think this is an important 3-year historical look at superintendent agreements. In 2016-17, we had 33 net agreements. So we had 42 that came in. We had 9 that went out. So we had 33 students increase due to superintendent agreements, and there were 8 denials. Now you can see in 2018 we have fewer students coming in, 37, and we have 12 students going out with a net of 25 students increased in the district. And I will say that, this is an important note, most of the time when we accept a superintendent's agreement, we keep the student. We keep the student after we've accepted them. So most of these numbers that you're looking at for superintendent agreements, these are students who have been with us year after year after year. These are not new superintendent agreements. These are numbers that we carry over the years. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt midstream, but can you again talk about why we make the agreements? What's the purpose, so that folks that don't understand?
So years ago, I think the conventional wisdom, and I would say years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago even, conventional wisdom was that students should stay in school in their community, and that's still happens to be pretty much what most students do and what most families want, is their children to go to school in their community that they live in. 8 years ago, when the current governor came into office, one of his agendas for education was school choice, and that is why you'll see 10 charter schools in the state of Maine that operate as part of the school choice. Another part of school choice is superintendent agreements. So in other words, if a family would like their child to go to a district of their choice, they can petition both superintendents of where they live and where they would like to have their child go to school, and ask for an agreement. And as long as both superintendents agree, then the child is accepted. If the superintendents disagree, as to bringing the student in or what the family would like, it can be appealed to the Department of Education. I've seen many times it being appealed when a decision is made that a family does not want, and it gets overturned at the state level. So over the years, school choice, over the last 8 years, school choice has become something that has occurred de facto in our state. And families, you know, the reasons they give are 100 different reasons. Being close to childcare, like the program that you're offering at your high school, IB is a big one for us. Need a fresh start, et cetera, et cetera. Want to be closer to where I work. There's 100 different reasons. I can't say there's any one reason. But, you know, I think I'm giving you this information right now to show that we're actually seeing a decrease in superintendent agreements, not an increase. And some of them are not even formally denied because we'll say we don't have room, and we'll never get the request after verbally being asked. So I think that's an important notation to make as we look at this information. And so finally, why is enrollment difficult to predict in this district? So in 2019-20, planning decisions, this is a year from now, our planning decisions is saying that we will have 2,101 students in the district. Our outgoing senior class, which will graduate this June, is the largest in the district right now with 199 students. Madeline, 199 students, right? You have a big class. The average kindergarten class, we averaged it over the last 4 years. It's been increasing. 153 students has been our average K class, give or take a few. And so if nothing else changes, the district enrollment next year, by conventional wisdom, would drop from 2,081 students, which we have today, to 2,035 students, which would be a drop of 46 students. Now, I'm going to debunk that completely, and Planning Decisions has already debunked it for us. But there's so many other factors that are coming into place, and I want to just give you one of them that we noticed when we analyzed the enrollment this fall. So over the summer, and the principals all reference this, we are getting more registrations at grade levels other than kindergarten than ever before in this district, and it's just a matter of fact. 22 new registrations at grades 1 through 3. So we're not even talking about kindergarten. Those are new students to our district, obviously. 22 new registrations grades 1 to 3. 14 new registrations in grades 4 to 5. And 18 new registrations 6 to 8. And by the way, these, if we look at in and out, there's a net. So there might have been more students that registered. Then we have some that move and move out. These are the net. This is the net number of students when you look at the ins and outs. 20 new students netted at the high school. So over the last few months, we have 74 new registrations netted out in our district. Those are 74 new students, grades 1 through 12, who have registered in our district and weren't kindergartners coming in. And it used to be that it was always just kindergarten that we looked at. Very few kids would register in other grades. Once you came into the district, you pretty much stayed, and very few kids came or went in this particular district. And that's been a historical fact for years and years. So to have 74 new registrations, and again, that's netted out. We had more go than 74. I think it was 96, and we had some leave and move out of the district. But to have 74, that's a lot, grades 1 through 12. So this is why enrollment is difficult to predict. So I could tell you, I think I know what the enrollment will be September of 2019. But quite honestly, I really don't. And I think that's why Planning Decisions made it every attempt to give us as much information based on a number of different factors. But what I can tell you today is we have 2,081 students, and that's about all I can tell you. Our best guess is our best guess. I think Planning Decisions has done a really good job helping us with that. And I still think they're pretty much on the money and close to what they thought we were going to have based on a lot of different factors. So that is our enrollment report, and I'll certainly answer any questions that we might have.
I've got a question.
Sure.
I'm just curious, with the superintendent agreements, where do you see the most come in? Like, is it more like the younger grades, Mabel I, or is it kind of scattered?
No, it's all over the place. I have to say we probably get as many at the high school level and at the late middle school level coming in. Okay. And so I can't say it's at the elementary level. It's very much scattered across. The ones that I denied were truly for class size reasons. And there were some that I would have denied, but they were getting close. But there is a history now in Maine that you take the student unless you have issues with class size. If you have enrollment issues, those are considered legitimate issues for denying. So, superintendents in Maine are becoming more flexible now about receiving or allowing students to leave if they want to in our state.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, so our next item after Jeff's superintendent reports and enrollment update is public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? All right, moving on, we'll go to committee reports. And hopefully we can hear from the students, because I know you guys just started school, so we'd love to get both of your takes on how your year is going.
So I'll start. We had a great start to the year. We started last Wednesday, actually, and we did have some programming that sort of combined students and teachers. And my personal favorite was on Thursday, which was a carnival, and it was super fun. I honestly don't think I've ever seen our school community come together that well before, and it was very unstructured, but it worked. So I think that kind of started everyone off in a really good mood for the year, and we're excited about improving the culture. Yeah, it's been good so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the community day went really well, and we saw a lot of people connecting who don't normally do that. So I think it set a really good tone for the rest of the school year.
Excellent. It's good to hear. Thank you. All right, so I don't know how many committee reports we'll have since most of the committees have not started. So if you have one, raise your hand. Seeing none, we will move to communications, and that is around our board goals. So there's not a formal vote on the board goals. It's just really a document that we generate to, solidify our objectives for the year. So is any discussion around that?
That's awfully quiet.
Let's see, I can pull them up and give a few. So we have 4 goals for this year. One is around revising the graduation policy in reaction to the legislation change in proficiency-based education. Obviously, we are going to have a goal around analyzing our facilities, enrollment, and the space study which was just completed last spring. We really need to take a look at that and make sure the current and future needs of the district are met. Complete construction for the Greeley Center for the Arts. Also, I would like it, and I think everyone agreed that it should be a board goal to foster community engagement with the Greeley Center for the Arts. And then the last goal that I had as of right now is around the first year of the strategic plan. And as Madeline and Tara had mentioned, we really want to foster and encourage student voice within the strategic plan. So those are our board goals at this time. It's not a final draft. I think there will be some revisions and some discussions in policy. Finance. Any, Margo?
Kate, I just had a question about when we have the goals, do they get broken down by committee work, or is it just an overarching direction? Or
Sure. So naturally, the revising the graduation policy will be the objective and work for the policy committee. The Greeley Center for the Arts is a facility, and I can't remember what the name of the committee is, but there's an opening committee for that. So they tend to fall within committee work, and any concrete action or votes around the goals happen at the board level. All right. Oh, Kevin.
You didn't think I was just going to...
No, never.
No, that would be wrong. I think you did a solid job with these in the collaboration of the group coming up with these and the way that you positioned them. I was agonizing, might be the right word, over the weekend. I'm thinking about goals for the board. And, if you think about the Red Sox, the goal of their season is to win a World Series, right? And then there's a whole bunch of things that happen between that become the focus of everybody who's contributing to that. These are great goals, but we're going to be in a challenging time as we work through the year. I think I'm very excited about Mike's leadership on finance this year, because I think that's going to be something that has to be one of our goals, and not one of those ones that we continue to focus on doing the right thing and talking about exercising fiscal responsibility. But if we throw a circle around all of those other goals, we need to continue to make our mission that of investing the money that our community invests in us to do the right thing for our students. I had bent poor Kate's ear far too long about whether that should be its own goal, because I kind of personally I felt that it should be. But it is something that we've exercised in the past, that fiscal responsibility. I'm going to be the person sitting on each of our shoulders this year and asking those questions. And I don't know if there's space in any of these that we can make one of our goals that continued resolution to the effective use of the capital that the community provides.
No, I think, you and I talked a lot about this week, and I think it's everyone's, and I don't want to say knee-jerk reaction, but it's a natural goal in light of, state events, budget seasons to say, yes, that's our goal. But I think if we start to loop in what is a given to us, it's in our mission statement and our bylaws, the responsible use of community resources, I think we have to start looping in all the other things. So to me, the board goals separated out by each year are actionable steps that we can say at the end of the year, yes or no, these objectives were met, and that are new things that we're doing, not things that we have been doing all along. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to put it in there. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know if anyone else has further thoughts. Jeff? Mike?
Yeah, I would just sort of reiterate that. I think us as board members have a fiduciary duty to the community, and that kind of goes without saying, just by the very fact that we're board members. And so I have trouble sort of putting that in as a goal, to Kate's point, where those are more specific, concrete objectives as opposed to us doing our actual fiduciary duty. Yeah, I mean, so in my discussions with Kate, as she was talking me off of my my ledge, what was very consistent with that we have always sought to spend money wisely on those things that are most important to moving the students in the district forward. I struggled when Kate and I were talking that if we're saying that this is one of our goals, then it would imply that maybe we hadn't. And I believe, and I know in the amount of time that I've been here, that we have. And there's been a number of discussions where we dig very deep into budget matters. Why it was important to me is any day that you pick up the Portland paper and you look at other districts struggling with similar things, I just want to make sure that it is absolutely one of our goals, whether written or observed, that we continue to do that work and explain our positions and why it matters what we do. So I'm okay with it not being one. It just was on my mind, and you guys are stuck here listening to this.
No, I think that's good. And I mean, I think anyone who's sat around the finance budget discussions with the 9 of us knows that it's always in the forefront of our mind. So it's good to get it out and to say it out loud. And it's always been a goal for me. I'm sure it's always going to be a goal for this board, especially in light of the funding reductions from the state.
No, I couldn't agree more. It has to imbue everything we do and look at. So,
100%.
I'm with you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, so our next item, wow, this feels very loud tonight. Sorry, everybody at home. So our next item is to vote to enter executive session. So
If I could just ask a question, do we need to vote to accept the board goals, or do you want to do that at another time, or how does that?
I kind of skipped over that part. So there's no vote, right?
There's no need.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. You can choose to, but you don't have to.
And, some of these discussions can kind of finish and land in finance or, another committee. And I will be sure, if there's any revisions or additions, I will distribute to the board like I did this week. Is that okay?
That's fantastic. Thank you.
All right, so now, do I have a motion to enter executive session?
A motion to enter executive session?
Second?
Second.
All right, we are now in executive session. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight?
So moved.
Great. Thank you.
Second.
Oh.
All in favor?